What's up? Happy Wednesday. It's that time. The OU softball show here. Ryan Chapman, was down in Austin for every single pitch of the somewhat head-scratching, stunning series from an Oklahoma perspective. Texas takes 2 of 3 from the Sooners. We're going to recap everything with the 3 things we learned from OU and Texas down in Austin here on the OU softball show. Let's get into it. Welcome in. It was a big weekend. Like I said, we were down there for every single bit of it. If you missed any of the coverage, just find me on Twitter, _Ryan Chapman. I've got all of those links from the live blogs, the stories, the videos. If you're watching this, obviously you have found John Hoover Media, the great YouTube channel. Just keep scrolling back up. I'm not going to have a ton of clips of Patty Gasso or Mike White, really any of those, because those press conferences, it looks like all you guys have already watched them. But if you haven't, if you've missed it, pause real quick, go onto John Hoover Media's YouTube page. You'll be able to find everything that Patty Gasso said, Mike White. We had it all from the whole weekend. But a bunch of streaks broken. Oklahoma, first time since 2011 that the Sooners have lost a Big 12 series. Way back then, it was when they played 2-game sets. It was Missouri that took 2 extra inning ball games in 2011. Which means in the 3-game era, the actual series era of Big 12 softball, the Sooners had never lost a series. It was the first time Oklahoma had lost back-to-back games since the 2019 Women's College World Series Champ Series. 2017, they lost a pair to Cal Poly. It was the first time, though, since 2009 that the Texas Longhorns got Oklahoma in a series back-to-back days. It was historic. Oklahoma opened up 5-2 victory on Friday night. Kelly Maxwell rocking and rolling. And then a pair of 2-1 games. The play at the plate, Maya Bland v. Reese Atwood. That was how Saturday night ended. And then Sunday, Oklahoma went kind of with a little bit of a whimper. Tiare Jennings, a 2-out single, but Alyssa Brito just popped it up. And the first thing is that this Oklahoma lineup, they're susceptible to dominant pitching, especially dominant lefties. You saw Estelle Check. She was incredible. When she came in on Friday, it absolutely shut Oklahoma down. Those 5 runs were off the starter, Mac Morgan, not Estelle Check. She then came in relief for Tegan Kavan on Sunday, and Oklahoma, again, couldn't get anything off of her. And then just as Oklahoma State experienced in their second game, it's Tali Gutierrez. She is a stud as well. Texas, what they're going to be known for is their pitching under Mike White, and they got after Oklahoma. And the reason they got after Oklahoma was the middle of the Sooners lineup. Sydney Sanders went a combined 0 for 6. She did draw a couple of walks against Texas. Both those walks, however, were in Friday's victory when the offense was humming. Alina Torres, she went 0 for 9 on the weekend. Cassie Pickering had an up-and-down weekend, a couple of doubles, but one of those doubles on Saturday, it basically didn't matter because of a base running error. She did not go off the bat in a 2-out situation when Tiare Jennings singled through. Instead, she worked her way back to the bag, tagged up. She ended up only making it to third. I think Patty Gasso was going to send her and try and put a second run on the board. If Oklahoma is tied with Texas 2-2 heading into the 7th instead of down 2-1, does that change Patty Gasso's psychology on the Riley Boone double? Does she hold Maya Bland at third, have Boone on second, Bland on third, Jada Coleman coming up, a chance to extend the rally, really put the pressure on Texas? I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. And so the middle of that Oklahoma lineup was a total no-show. And when you pair that with the fact that Texas, a team that has real issues in the field, we saw it on Friday, missing a couple of what should have been routine fly balls into the shallow outfield. The wind was whipping around on Friday, a lot different. It was just kind of blowing straight out on Saturday. No wind at all really on Sunday. So it was a more difficult condition, but Texas played picture perfect in the field on Saturday and Sunday. And Oklahoma was simply not able to adjust to Gutierrez, surely not able to adjust to Estelle Check, knowing that they were going to get Estelle Check on Sunday. It's something interesting. We've seen a couple of times this year. Patty Gasso's talked about wasting outs, not having enough energy. Even yesterday's game on Tuesday against Wichita State, Oklahoma runs up 7 runs really quickly in the first 2 innings, and then the lineup just dies. It's almost like this team, I don't know if it's that hard to motivate a 3-time champion. I don't know if there's some missing piece, but we've seen a lot of, outside of really the Texas Tech series and Kansas, who they're just not good teams. Baylor's not good either. I know that Kansas was receiving votes, stuff like that. Kansas is not any good. Outside of those 3 series, Oklahoma's had a lot of these moments this year where they get right up to the line of a run rule, absolutely crush a team, then it kind of goes quiet for 2 or 3 innings. I wonder how much of those adjustments are not happening top to bottom, because that's something that Kinsey Hansen talked about on Saturday, Alyssa Brito talked about on Sunday. They need to make those adjustments. They need to be more efficient making those adjustments. I'm curious what that looks like, but we did learn Oklahoma susceptible to elite pitching, especially those left-handers. The good news, not a ton of those just elite of the elite out there, but Texas is a staff that has a couple, Oklahoma State a staff that has a few. We'll see what that looks like when Bedlam rolls around. But you talk about dominant lefties, that second thing we learned this weekend, Kelly Maxwell, not just Oklahoma's ace, but she's pitching closer to the 2022 version of Kelly Maxwell than even what we saw a year ago at Oklahoma State. Now, Kelly was at another level in 2022. If you look at her strikeout per inning numbers, it was close to 2 in 2022, close to about 1.2 right now in 2024, similar in 2023. But a better whip as far as the walks, hits per innings pitch allowed, that has come down closer to her 2022 levels. So Kelly's not getting the same number of strikeouts she was in 2022. It's about similar to what she was last year in her final year at Oklahoma State, but she is allowing much less traffic on the bases. And that makes a lot of sense. The 2 times Texas got to her were a really pressure-filled, do-or-die 7th inning on Friday, but Kelly got out of that. And then it was basically that 1 inning, 2 batters. It was just 2 batters against Texas on Sunday. Kelly Maxwell hits Vivi Martinez, and then Katie Stewart just laces one about a foot past the wall. It wasn't like Texas rung her up and dinged her and beat her around, anything like that. It was Kelly Maxwell who was able to carry a no-hit bid into the 5th inning on Friday, and you look up, and that means that Friday, Sunday, something that Patty Gasso has not asked Kelly Maxwell to do in a Big 12 series this year, she came in and she dominated on Friday, seeing that exact same lineup a 2nd, 3rd, 4th time through on Sunday. Kelly Maxwell kept Oklahoma in that game, and so it'll be interesting to see what that means for Kelly Maxwell going forward. She is now unquestionably the ace of this staff. That was something that Patty Gasso said on Sunday. One of the big things Oklahoma got from this weekend is Kelly Maxwell pitching closer to her 2022 self, and Kelly Maxwell showing that she's able to ramp up in. This is something that the staff mentality, Patty Gasso wants these arms to be as fresh as possible for the postseason run in May and in June. Well, if you look back to the Iowa State series a little bit, Patty Gasso left Kelly in a lot longer than maybe she would have earlier in the season. Why? Well, she's trying to ramp up in and say, okay, now we need you to go 100 pitches. Now we need you to go 110 pitches. Get used to that again, something Kelly Maxwell is used to doing for Oklahoma State, but get used to that as well. Now we need you to throw 100 pitches on Friday and come back in and give you 4 good innings on Sunday, ramping her in, being ready, because if you win at the Women's College World Series, you play every other day, plenty of rest. We saw that a year ago. That meant that Patty Gasso essentially rode Jordy Ball all the way through. I think another thing, talking about left-handers, Kirsten Deal came in a couple of big spots. Patty Gasso didn't give her an extended run, as once Nicole May left the game on Saturday, and then once Kelly Maxwell left the game on Sunday, Patty Gasso kind of went matchups a little bit, but Kirsten Deal, the 2 big outs on Saturday, Kirsten Deal coming back through on Sunday, and then you look at what she did against Wichita State. She allowed the leadoff single, then she retired, basically motored through 11, 12 straight batters, ringing up 7 strikeouts, 8 strikeouts. Her response there, it really feels like Kirsten Deal's got something cooking here, and I'd love to see Patty Gasso be able to give Kirsten Deal the ball and let her just go from the start against Oklahoma State. I'd want to see what that looks like just to see. But if not, she's a great option, especially if you start with Nicole May, give you 4 innings, then Kirsten Deal can come in for, the 5th and the 6th, something like that. Then you're matching up a righty and a lefty. It really feels like Oklahoma's going to be okay there. That's what made this weekend so puzzling at times. It's Oklahoma lost a pair of close games. I think it would have made a lot more sense to Oklahoma fans if Oklahoma lost a pair of close games that were like 6-5 or 7-6 maybe. And after Kelly Maxwell exits out, you don't have another overwhelming dominant performance in the circle. But Oklahoma, it was a little touch and go in the 6th inning on Saturday. Oklahoma, the beneficiary of a replay review where a runner was leaving early, but Oklahoma outscored Texas in the series 7-6 overall, but it was the pair of 2-1s on Saturday and on Sunday, the lack of offense for Oklahoma that got the best of them against Texas, which I think brings us to the third thing we learned in Austin. Oklahoma, wherever you look at it, the rankings are kind of split. I use the coaches poll, and Oklahoma is still number one in the coaches poll, but this team has maybe lost that shine of invincibility. I think that there were a lot of teams that mentally you step onto the field against Oklahoma and you see errors that they haven't had to that point that season or things like that, because teams were putting so much pressure on themselves. You have to play the perfect softball game to beat Oklahoma. And then you look at it, okay, a year ago, Baylor beats Oklahoma. They did not have to come back the next day and play the Sooners. And then from there, Oklahoma was able to come back and really kind of bring the hammer down on the Baylor Bears throughout the rest of that. That is not what happened on Saturday. Mike White in Saturday's press conference, kind of his last message is, you got to go and you got to win the series again. Oklahoma's going to bounce back. They're going to come back hard. They knew that. And Texas won the game on Sunday as well. I think back to one of the last things Mike White said on Sunday, where he basically said, we did something a lot of people thought was impossible, which is to beat Oklahoma 2 days in a row. I think that's something that now for the rest of the way, if you get into a Bedlam series, whether Oklahoma State wins on Friday or on Saturday, Kenny Gasso is going to be able to go into that locker room and say, it can be done. Look at what Texas did. You can beat Oklahoma 2 times in the same year. There were some of the conversations, I think it was the ESPN's Extra Innings podcast when Jocelyn Allo graduated out, where basically the thing was, Allo's not there anymore. That kind of was going to dent some of the aura of what Oklahoma was. Well, you had Jordy Ball step straight in, and though she didn't able to pitch through the postseason, Oklahoma's lineup being just as powerful top to bottom, even if you didn't have Jocelyn Allo, plus the X factor of Jordy Ball and the swagger, I think that kept Oklahoma's invincibility in people's brains for another couple of years. I still think that even Florida State, when they stepped into that series in Oklahoma City, they'll never say it, but I think that Florida State was going, I don't know how we're going to beat this team twice. Let's give it a go. Now, no Jordy Ball, an Oklahoma lineup that is still really, really powerful, but has shown that they can be gettable by some of the elite pitching in the country. I really think that that's going to change some of the mindset. Will it pan out? Does this mean Oklahoma can't win the national championship? Of course not. They're still the number one team in the country. They're not outside the top 3 anywhere you look. They're one of the best teams in the country. You look at their pitching staff from Kelly Maxwell to Nicole May to Kirsten Deal, having an experienced arm like Carly Keeney be your go-to reliever. Oklahoma is stacked. It doesn't mean anything of, oh, suddenly the Sooners are not favorites to win the national championship, anything like that. But I do think it does change maybe some of the mental dynamics of what teams are having to tell themselves. Because as a competitor, you always have to say, yes, I can go out and win this game. But there's going to be that subconscious doubt that follows any competitor. It's the same thing of if you're in the NBA and you're squaring off against LeBron James in a playoff series, you go, man, LeBron's been there, done that. It was when the Warriors added Kevin Durant to Golden State, and suddenly, okay, you won a game, but are you really going to beat this Kevin Durant-led Golden State Warriors team 4 times? Is that really going to happen? I think that a little bit of Oklahoma's invincibility might have taken a smidge of a dent across the country. We'll see how that plays out. Serious dynamics, probably more than just a postseason dynamic, which is why I don't think it hurts Oklahoma's chances at all by any means, for heaven's sakes. This team's only lost 3 softball games. The sky is not falling. They're still one of the best teams, if not the best team in the country. But in a 3-game series, in a championship series, in a Bedlam series, what does that do to the mental dynamics? I don't know. We'll see. Oklahoma State's dealing with some injuries of their own. Taylor Edwards, is she going to be 100% healthy? But the Sooners did get that huge bounce back, and it's exactly what you wanted to see in Wichita on Tuesday night. Jumped out early, 3 runs in the first inning, 4 runs in the second inning, but then it stopped. And while Kirsten Deal was awesome, that's the thing that's still missing, is when Oklahoma brings that second wave in, it's not just firing all the way across the finish line like it was in years past. Now, a big part of that is you had a Grace Green who, as experienced as it gets, you're throwing truly freshmen in there and sophomores that haven't had a ton of experience. So that's a different dynamic. I think one of the really good things you saw, Avery Hodge going 2 of 4, getting that double, continuing to battle with Alina Torres. I thought that was really great. And then not the second wave, but Ella Parker continues to be really, really good. Patty Gasso talked on Sunday. That was the other big takeaway. The Kelly Maxwell ball, but also Ella Parker. Some good from the Texas series. Cassidy Pickering, I think that she was, though she had the mental error on the base paths, some of the hardest hit balls came from Cassidy Pickering. And while Ella Parker lasered her 2-run shot out of or her solo shot, out of the ballpark, it was Cassidy Pickering that I thought on Friday, or maybe it was Saturday, one of the two, they kind of run together. Her double high off the wall, I think it was Saturday, would have probably been a home run in most ballparks. And I think that was something a little bit different. Texas has that really, really, really tall fence. Think that there was at least one of those from Pickering that would have been a home run. I don't recall any of Texas's doubles that I think would have been home runs in other parks, but I moved around a bit. It was not the best vantage point 100% of the time, but two really good things there rolling through. And I think Avery Hodge, I think that she has a big role to play as well. But the Sooners back into a Thursday through Saturday set this weekend as BYU comes to town. So, right, obviously, they're not going to play on Sunday. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, out at Love's Field. And as always, we will have all the coverage. So be sure you follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter. Follow me _Ryan Chapman or John E. Hoover. They'll have all the links there, whether it be every single game story, all the post-game stuff for Oklahoma, and certainly that weekend wrap. You'll want to go find that. Just search _Ryan Chapman on Twitter. Find my weekend wrap-up. It's where I kind of take the step back, and I'm less concerned about the result day-to-day, but try to take a look at a weekend at the whole and see what went well, what went wrong, why, whatever happened, why did that happen? That's what we do over on Twitter, _Ryan Chapman. Until next time, here on the YouTube page, John Hoover Media, we'll be back with the OU Softball Show next.